Electricast. Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today I'm excited to be speaking with my next guest, Jenn DeBarge Goonan. Jenn is a communications and marketing strategist who has spent 20 plus years helping brands cut through the noise, earn trust, and inspire action. She has launched brands like Lululemon into the U.S. market, introduced new flavors at Ben & Jerry's, and was the company spokesperson for Marshalls and TJ Maxx, and helps communicate the missions of the Robotics Education and Competition Foundation, Bosch Community Fund, and the Duncan Foundation to move both hearts and bottom lines. She is the executive vice president at Rocket Social Impact, a strategy and communications firm dedicated to partnering with corporations and nonprofits to execute programs, campaigns, and communications that advance purpose and measurable impact. She also works with women entrepreneurs who are ready to get seen, heard, and recognized for the work they've already mastered through clear messaging, strategies, and gaining media visibility to boost credibility, partnerships, and sales. Jenn, I'm so excited to be able to welcome you to the show today. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Well, first of all, thank you for saying yes. I met you through a mutual connection who was looking for people to hop on a call with you to do some market research. And I loved doing that. I always love to be able to support other women around this because I feel like the only way we're going to know is if we can talk to people and just to be open, just to be open about our experiences and to be able to share something that could help potentially someone to figure out maybe a piece of the process that they were missing. So I'm really glad that we did that. I'm really glad that you're here today because when we were talking, I realized, oh my gosh, you would be such a great addition to the show. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. I'm excited. You're amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, with that being, and so are you equally, by the way. So with that being said, I'm just going to get right to the questions.
Mm-hmm.
So you've led marketing and communications for household brands like Lululemon, Ben & Jerry's, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, and your work spans everything from launching national campaigns to amplifying the missions of foundations and women-led businesses. So can you take us back? Because I always like to start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted, if you could walk us through the journey that brought you to where you're at, what mattered most to you in the evolution of who you are and what you do.
That's a great question. I think that the key thread through all of my work is really the purpose and having a stance for social impact. So that could be anything. That could be domestic violence prevention. It could be STEM education. It could be breast cancer awareness. It could be helping to end hunger. Anything that really has a purpose and it's going to help society be better and shine the light on the good work that it's being done is basically the core and the essence that I want to help brands, people, businesses do better so they shine brighter.
Yeah. So take us back though. What brought you to this? Because I know obviously we all have a backstory. We all started somewhere, whether it's, and you could have been in a completely different field of business. You could have been doing something completely different and then just decided that, you took pursue what you're doing now. So take us back to that.
Yeah. Well, going way back, my very first job was working for Compaq Computers. It's not even called Compaq anymore. It's like HP, I believe now. And I was helping to do computer services. So it sounds as dry as it sounds. Sorry, Compaq. And in my first role, my first year, I'm like, this doesn't feel aligned. It doesn't feel like I'm helping really much. And I wasn't excited about the topic. And it was an interesting time because I could have just stayed on the path and just learned about high tech and digital and the components of computers. Or I could have been brave, which I did have the courage and I knew that this wasn't the right fit. And so I started having conversations and knowing that computer science wasn't my thing in terms of like the services component of it. I migrated into doing brand work and company brand communications and marketing communications and strategy that felt more aligned because I was always fascinated about how people communicate, what they communicate. And then on the flip side, how people pick up that information. Are they listening? Is it too confusing? How are they relating to it? So it's one part communication, but it's also psychology too, of like how people interact with whatever message that you're trying to convey.
I love that. And one of the things like so for me, I really feel like, especially with when we talk about branding, people think, well, I'm the brand. But w- it could, like, how do you look at it as being the brand and having all of these pieces, right? So, for example, a lot of women that they're high performers. I know as a high achieving woman, we tend to like, we're always looking for the new. We're always looking for new innovation. We're looking for ways to improve. We're looking for what impact can we make, which is important. And I think it's great to
Hmm.
be driven, but we're really good. A lot of many women that I've talked to, they're so amazing at what they do, but a lot of the time they stay quiet about it when it comes to being visible. So again, you, knowing that I'm the brand, but then now I have to become visible to be the face of the brand or my brand. How do I get the branding out there and be okay to be visible while promoting my branding, right? So, from your lens, why do you think women with visibility feels so uncomfortable or even unsafe for some women? And how do you help your clients step forward without losing their authenticity?
Yeah, that is such a good question and observation. I also see and have conversations about this often, which is really too bad. But I look at it as a positive challenge because I would say that 99% of these women have a beautiful gift to share with the world, whatever that looks like, right? There's so many products or services that can help the world and help their community. My number one tip would be to get into the fearless mindset and think about the ways that you could be fearless on the spectrum of like least fearless to like most fearless. And that looks different for each person. And even if you went to like that medium stage, how could you better communicate your offering, your product, your service, and how you could help others? And also, if you're invisible, you can't do that, right? You have to be in that fearless mindset to showcase your talents and communicate that and bring people along for that journey. It's super important. And also, there's power in that growth. So not only power in the growth of how you communicate or that the marketing and that fearless mindset, but how you could help the other person. And I think that once you switch almost the mindset from yourself to how you can help others and how they could reach their goals, how they could be healthier, how they could have a better mindset, how they could have a better life, it kind of takes the pressure off you.
Yeah. And I love that. One of the things that came to mind as you were talking was I was thinking about having like that childlike courage. Because you know how when we're children and sometimes you're like looking, and I don't know if do you have kids, Jen?
Yes, I
And
agree.
yes, so okay, so with your kids, I'm sure there's been times when you're like, "Oh no, like get down from there," right?
Yes.
But there's that childlike courage. It's like there's no fear. We learn fear as we go, and I think, I mean, and it's obviously it's important that we understand that some things we need to be obviously aware of, but there's that childlike courage that I guess I feel like sometimes we forget about, which is something I've started to really think about, like, how do I tap into that
Mhm.
person, that child of me, or that part of that time where I felt so empowered and was able to go after my goals and
Mm,
wanting to be visible of it, like what I wanted. Like I had in my early 20s, I was like, I want that. It's mine. And I went after
mm.
it. And so when I look at that, it's like, oh right. Yeah, that's where I need to go back to is getting back to that. So I guess my follow-up to that would be, what's a shift in messaging or mindset, could be both, that you feel could help women feel confident owning their expertise?
Yep. I think it's just doing it, like taking the small steps. Take the smallest steps to get to your goal. We're coming up, in a new year or timing, or you could just use the month ahead of you, right? Whatever time you're listening to this, use the next 30 days to make small steps to change that. And as you said, tapping into that courage. Remember the time that you did X. You ran the mile. You started a garden. You took better health. You started cooking really healthy. Like use whatever example that's appropriate for your life and see like the before and after and apply it to whatever growth or objective you have right now.
Yeah, I love that. So, with that being said, because we're talking about that, I wanted to talk about like clarity. So, I know that sometimes it can be like we have all these ideas, especially to as this is a new year, 2026 is upon us, and we're now figuring, okay, so last year I did all of these things. Some of the things maybe not so great, didn't turn out the way I wanted it, but now I have like these hopes of, okay, how can I turn around maybe something that happened in 2025 for 2026 and to become like whatever that is that I want it to look
Hmm.
like. So when women that want to let's just say, I'm not gonna say that women want to get seen, but helping women to get seen, to be
Hmm.
heard, to be recognized for what they mastered is something that I know is really important to you. So,
Hmm.
how do you help your clients clarify what they want to be known for? And
Hmm.
why does message clarity matter just as much as the marketing strategy? Maybe even more so.
Yeah, this is like one of my favorite topics. And I would almost argue to your point, what you just said is that the messaging is more important than the marketing part of it, like the tactic, because I feel like marketing can be fun, right? There's so many different levers you can pull. But if you don't have that clear messaging, you're lost. And what I take clients through, and this is through big brands to small businesses, I call it the North Star message guide. And it really is talking about your primary message. Like, what do you do? And what are the supporting messages? How do you benefit? How can you, whatever your service does, how it impacts someone else? And also, too, it's also doing the work and talking to the people that you've impacted or people who've bought your product. So, for example, hearing them explained the impacts of your business in their own words, and what people will find is that there'll be a common theme or topic that you can utilize for your own messages to get really clear. Because at the end of the day, you have a few seconds to communicate. People
Hmm.
are scrolling or people are moving so fast. So how do you get people's attention? And I would start with the impact versus like I do this. I help impact or my services will transform your life in these ways and make it so that you're showcasing the transformation really, really clearly.
Yeah, I love that. I think because everyone's always, it seems like a lot of people focus on what they're going to give, like all the things you're going to get from me. And those are great because once
Mhm.
someone gets into your program and they start to see how you teach, the services you provide, the downloadables, like the container itself is great that once they get in there, they're like, oh, I love it. Oh, she's got all of this over here and there's this and it's going to support me. But what they want to know right now is it's not about, for example, someone wants to lose 10 pounds. You telling them that I'm going to do this for you and I'm going to do this for you. It's like, how are they going to feel? So, lose 10 pounds by, I don't know, that's so you can fit into that beautiful dress that you've been eyeing at the mall. So you can go to your high school reunion feeling confident when you meet all those people you haven't seen in 30 plus years, right?
Right.
Like they want something they can visualize, like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Because especially when you think about high school reunion, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like how I look right now. And I got to go and see people and they want to know what I'm doing, but they're going to be focused. A lot of the time we're afraid they're going to be focusing on how we look. And the funny thing is, if you were to get into the minds of everyone at the high school reunion, everyone
Mhm.
would be thinking the same thing. So they're
Everyone's
not even
exaggerating.
yeah, they're not thinking about what you're thinking about what they're thinking about you. They're worried about what you're thinking about them. So everyone has the same thought. So I love the fact that messaging really is important about like the transformation. How can this is how what I'm my services are going to transform your life because you're going to be able to do this, you're going to be able to do that. You're going to feel good about the
Hmm.
life that you're living. And I think that's really important. I, so with that, let's a follow up to that would be so let's say like of course focusing on the transformation is very important, but what about when they feel like they're saying everything to
Mm.
everyone? Where should they refine, like begin to refine their message? Like how do they do that part? Because I think there's the excitement to get it all out there, but it's like how do you kind of dial it back and get to like those real important points?
Great question. And I would say get your message in 20 words or less, or approximately 20 words in a conversation. So if you met someone from your high school reunion that you haven't seen in 10 years, Leslie, what do you do? Jane, what do you do? Jen, what do you do? It should be conversational. It shouldn't be corporate. It shouldn't be AI. It should come from the heart. And I help, I do, I transform. Those are the keywords you want to showcase in your messaging. I mean, it's just conversational. And then people are like, oh, I want to hear more. And that's a whole, and it builds a dialogue and it's memorable, right? And that's really important too. You could say, I've helped 3,000 women transform their lives by reducing their weight, whatever that looks like, right? I mean, that's a
Hmm.
powerful statement. That's exactly what I do. So I use social math. I would use things that really are transformative. And that's really key because if you're transforming lives, you should talk about it. Like if your product or your widget is really helping solve a problem, then say it. Be bold, be fearless, have the courage to say what you are and not to dim your light. Everyone has a story to tell and it's your place to do it in your own words. But I would caution that it can be lengthy, right? People go on and you're like, then people are like glassing over like, oh gosh. So I would just practice, right? This is who you are. If you are leading your own business, you're the only person that can say it the best way. And taking the space and the time to go through those important questions. I have a client right now that we're doing that right now and we're taking it step by step and we're having such aha moments. And she's like, I never thought of it that way because a lot of people, if you're founders, you're working with a team of one. It's me, myself, and I, right? And it can be
Hmm.
lonely. And sometimes your partner or your siblings or whatever, are like, I don't know what you do. And that's okay. But at a certain point, you want to talk about your business or your product or service and ask them, like, what do you think I do?
Yeah,
And hold space for that and just listen. Ask another person, what do you think I do? If
love
you're like,
that.
I don't like what I'm hearing because it's really not, if they're like, oh, I'm a little offended, they don't know what I'm doing, maybe you're not communicating it the right way. It's a learning lesson.
Yeah. I love that, having other people mirror back to you what because you wanna know, you wanna make sure that your messaging is on point, that it is at least
Hmm.
you're getting across exactly what you want them to hear. Of course, it's not about you, but you want them to hear the message so that they understand it is about them, and this is what I do to help you get what you want. So I love that.
And
I really
also,
do.
too, it could be that you solved a problem, right?
Mm, yeah.
That my product helps open, I don't know, glass jars in 1 second, like people who are struggle. So that could be something if you have less dexterity in if your community has less dexterity or what have you, whatever the problem is, tell what you solve the problem. Like how do you help? It could be as small as that. But you could really kind of help people that are struggling. If someone is, struggling with arthritis in their hands and they can't open jars like they used to, that could create some angst, right? And
Mhm.
worry within just like their daily lives or what have you. And then they have more empower to open a jar. I'm using that as like a metaphor, but there's so many problems in life that you could solve. Whatever your business is doing, highlight it, showcase it. Don't be afraid. People want to hear your story. Build your community. And also, too, for people who are like, oh, I don't have a community. I would argue that even if you have 5 people in your community, if 5 people have bought your product, service, or offering, that's you have a community, right? And
Mhm.
then go back to them, ask them, like, I value your opinion, your feedback. How can I be better? How can this product, service, or offering be better for you or the next evolution in your journey? And be curious. And even if you get constructive criticism, that's okay. That's value. Knowledge is power. It's only going to make yourself stronger and your growth will be that much quicker.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because it's really, it's testing the market and finding out what they want, because that's the only way you're going to be able to essentially get your
Hmm.
product into other people's hands. So, I want to shift a little bit, because what I'm seeing right now, and I feel it's a season of women in leadership roles. Like
Mm.
they're in leadership roles, whether it's with their companies, whether it's in taking leadership roles in someone else's container, or being a mentor, which is kind of like a leadership role as well. I know that there's a lot of women who feel right now that there's this urgency for them to speak up, but speak up, especially with all of the things that are going on in our world, that we can either have our own opinion about, or we want to change the narrative. But I know that there's this underlying current, if you will, of air quotes doing it right, meaning they
Mm.
coming across the right way, not offending anyone, making sure that what they are doing or what they want to do is going to be seen as good enough or the right move. So, do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So my question for you is, how can women learn to trust their timing with their need to take bold steps now? And why is being invisible not serving them or the people that they're meant to help?
Yeah. I think that these are really good questions. And I think that social media doesn't help because even if you are not on social media and you're just looking at comments of other people, you're like, oh, wow, this is kind of scary out there, right? There's a lot of negativity. So I think it can be a scary place, but I think that starting with a safe community, like if it's your own network or joining a network. I've joined this year a couple networks that are mostly female oriented. And I feel like it's a safe space to ask questions, get feedback on, learn from other people that might be a couple years ahead, and then also helping people that are a couple years behind you, right? So it's almost like this one arm up, one arm down kind of visual because you want someone else to help you. You need mentors in your life, but you need to also help people that are coming from behind you, right? And showing them the way, maybe missteps you did, or you're like, oh, I could have done this faster if I did this, or here's a really good resource or tool, right? I think if you're in the mindset and the heart of sharing, I always said to my kids, sharing is caring and caring is sharing, right? It really is, it works well if you really want to be a mentor or mentee, of just putting it out into the universe and helping others. Like, be bold. Raise your hand. If someone asks a question about a resource and if it didn't work for you, I would say, I actually had troubles with it, right? You don't have to
Mhm.
slander someone, but just say it didn't work for me. And that could be something that would save that person time. I would just be really generous with your time and wisdom and being open to conversations with people that you may not have otherwise, right?
Yeah. One of the things that was coming to mind for me as you were talking was, I started really paying attention to the rooms that I'm going into.
Mm,
I have, I I have rooms where I'm in where, like you were saying, you are either at the same level or you're a little bit ahead, but I want to be in rooms where there's people ahead of me,
mm,
because I'm not going to learn some of the things I need to, that I'm looking for, or maybe not even aware
yep.
that I could learn from someone else, unless I'm putting myself into those spaces. And so I started really looking for those communities where I know I can get into those spaces with women who are that much further ahead. What I love about this podcast is a lot of women that I'm bringing onto the show that have asked to be on the show are so far ahead of where I'm at in my journey right now. And I don't look at that as a negative. I look at that as like, oh, this is fantastic, because I know it's going to support our listener, in a way that is like, oh, you might feel like you are not at that place where you want to be. Well, I want you to hear from this woman who went from this place in her life, and now look where she's gotten to, and she shares her journey, and that
Mhm,
inspires, right? Because I feel like as women, I feel like this is the season of women in a way where we're really starting to support each other. I'm seeing that more and more. I see a lot of women are starting podcasts that are empowering other women to live their best
mhm.
life. And that to me is so important. That's why I started this podcast. One of the reasons back in 2023, which is really, it's hard to believe that it's so much time has
Yeah.
passed, but it just feels so good to know that this podcast has been around doing that and supporting. So I just wanted to, reiterate that a little bit as well. I do want to talk about you, though. You've accomplished a lot because, again, you've led campaigns, you've moved hearts and bottom lines for the clients that you've worked with. You've worked with Ben and Jerry's, you've worked with Lululemon, TJ Maxx, Marshalls. You've got the Robotics Educations and Competition Foundation, Bosch Community Fund, the Duncan Foundation. I mean, there's so many things that you have done that because you saw, like, oh, I was over here. It's not really necessarily the thing that I really want to do for the rest of my life. And you took the leap of faith. Again,
Mhm.
courage doesn't come from sitting back and waiting for it to arrive. It happens
True.
when you step out, right? So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what makes a story resonate deeply in today's noisy world? And how
Mhm.
can we, as women, learn to tell our stories in a way that feels natural, that has that powerful impact that we hope to achieve? And then I would love for you to share something about what that has meant for you as you've evolved over these years.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the last question first because it kind of ties into the first question.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
I would say that earlier in my career, I think I thought that everything had to be perfect. There's no missteps. Everything I put so much pressure. My colleagues, I could see it. We were almost like robots, right?
Hmm.
And with that anxiety and pressure, I think it stifles connections, creativity, innovation. Like you're just kind of like taking orders. And I think there's a place early in your career that you're just learning, so you do so, right? But I think as you step out of that and build your confidence and build your expertise and experiences, comes valuable knowledge that you can become fearless. And I would say that my answer in my 20s of just being perfect I see this a lot still now 20 years later, talking to female founders and small business owners that they have to be perfect. They're waiting for the next, I have to wait 3 more months, or in 6 months, this is going to happen, or my website's going to look like this, and then I can do that. I mean, sometimes it's necessary because maybe your strategies change or what have you, but generally, you have everything you need right now, truly. And you don't need to be perfect. And I think, especially too, I agree. I've seen so much more female empowerment and engagement. People they're leaning in and they're being fearless more than ever I've ever seen. And also, too, I would encourage everyone listening that you don't have to be perfect. It's the messy middle. It's People don't want perfect. Quite honestly, I've been doing this for a long time, and I like when I hear missteps, or I wish I took this path, or I use this and not that, because that's when I stop. That's why I'm like, oh, there's someone made a mistake. Well, either I don't want to make that mistake, or two, I want to hear how people got out of it, right? Like, what are the tools that you had to kind of go deep within and listen to yourself, or maybe you have a counselor, or if you have a therapist, whatever that looks like in your life, right? Whatever you needed for strength to get you on the right path. And is there a right path? Because sometimes you feel like, oh, this is a setback, but sometimes it's a reset. And
Yeah.
mistakes can tell you some valuable information. It might hurt, or you're like, oh, that was uncomfortable or cringy. But I have noticed, because I always look for those kind of zigzags in the road. And I would say 99% of the time, there is a redirection that was better than you thought there was going to be.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I actually, when we first chatted about the podcast and the invitation for you to contribute, I knew exactly where I wanted you to be, which was for month one in this leadership series, because I really feel it was really important. Because for me, this year of 2026 is the self led year for the self led woman, meaning she's going to be the woman who is now taking action. It's not just about the learning. It's like your knowledge is power, but it's only powerful when you put it into action.
Mhm.
And so I really felt like it's so important to say, okay, now you've done the learnings. Now let's move into action. And that's why I wanted to bring women on like yourself to be able to inspire, encourage the listeners if they are
Right.
finding themselves at this stage and wondering what is the next move that to have you here. So I want to get from your perspective for yourself. How do you personally define intentional leadership? And what practices have helped you stay aligned when pressure or expectations try to pull you off course?
That's a really good question. I think that I'm a big visual person. So if I have a goal, whatever that is in life, personally or professionally, I reverse engineer it. What are the steps that I need to take backwards to get me forward? And so that maybe it's connecting with somebody. Someone like you just said, like there could be a woman that's 3, 4, 5 years ahead of you. I think there's no bigger compliment than someone who sends me an email or DMs me on LinkedIn and says, "Hey, can we have a coffee chat? I am just starting my career, or I would love to get into social impact, or I would like to help female founders, or whatever X it is." Who doesn't want to help someone else in their journey, right? And so I think that having the courage, even looking at someone who is a few years ahead of your career goals, make the contact. I would, in 2026, I would find 5 people you have like a crush on, like a professional crush on, that they're just doing what you want to be in a year from now, 6 months from now, whatever that looks like, and reach out to them and ask them if you can have a 30-minute conversation, because you are a role model in my life or in my business. And I would love if you would be open to having some time to kind of guide my career or my business or my journey. You'd be so surprised. People usually say yes, right? It's reciprocal, right? Because someone did it for you, you're going to do it something for others. Hopefully, I feel like if you're heart led and you want to do something great for the universe, it pays it forward.
Yeah, I love that. And as you were talking too, when you were talking about the reverse engineering, it reminded me of something that Steve Jobs had said. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, which is so true, right? Because we can think about what we want looking forward, but in order to get there, we have to think about, well, what did we do to get there? Well, we have to think backwards. Okay, well, what were all the steps that I did to get there? And you have to look at
Mhm,
it from the backwards way. So I love the idea of reverse engineering, which I had no idea what it was for a long time until, well, it was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago when I first
mhm,
learned about it. But it makes perfect sense to me that in order for you to get what you want, to get to that goal, you have to know what it looks like, but you have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, in order for me to get there, I have to know how I got there. And let's work
mhm,
backwards, because then that helps you to move forwards. And listen, I know that things can change too,
mhm.
because even though you might have that little plan where you've worked backwards, something else might actually come in and say, oh my gosh, this is so way much better than what I even thought about for that particular piece, that it
Mhm.
can maybe change it a little bit, and be curious and open to that. Cause I'm always open. I feel like if I'm open to those new ideas, I could get, like, as they would say, this or something better. So I love that.
Yeah.
You talked about that. It's really important.
And I would
So
take
I
it even
had
one step further. Oh, just to add
yeah,
on to that is actually
yeah,
put
of
pen to
course.
paper. Like literally for
Yes.
January, what are 5 things? And I actually have a notebook that I have my to-dos for the month, but also for the week. Like even today, I was like, oh, I'm gonna drop this kind of, oh, this is a good idea. And I just put it down. And once you write it, you put pen to paper, or if it's in your notes in your iPhone or whatever that looks like, you'll remember it. Like research shows that it'll become it goes from the subconscious to the conscious. And so your brain can help make those synergies when it's like 3 days from now, you're like, oh, I thought about this idea of my goal. Your body will work for you, your brain will work for you. So that's just like a little life hack, that just to write it down, because these small little incremental steps will get you there faster, but also with more intention, right? So you don't forget about it. And I know life goes, people get sick, or, like you get a migraine, like life happens, and that's okay. But then you can come back to it like, oh, yep, I have it right here on Wednesday. This is what I want to do.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So last question. On the application form, you shared something that stuck with me. I know it was because we had the conversation when we talked about the podcast, but what you said was listening to your instincts, be fearless in small steps, because you can help the world with your gifts. Being invisible doesn't power your growth or help others achieve their goals. And I really love that. So I want to ask you, what's one small but fearless step that you've taken in your leadership journey that's helped you to expand your reach or deepen your impact?
I think the number one thing that I've done this year is I have been very intentional of making connections, greater connections, similar to what we just talked about, is finding people that really inspire you and having those conversations. I actually just today had a conversation, a 30-minute, like, quote unquote, coffee chat that went from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. And it just kind of snowballed into these, like, all these
Yeah.
beautiful ideas and collaborations and maybe like a new business endeavor. So, like, you never know what the road can take you, but you have to be action oriented and take the steps as small as you want, but just make the small steps.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you so very much. I have loved talking with you today. I just love your journey. I love that we got connected through just doing a market research call that turned into a connection call, which turned into like you being on the podcast, which I'm really excited about. I love what you've done. Like it's inspiring to me because you decided like I went from this kind of like quote unquote boring job and it was boring for you. It doesn't
You
mean it's a
right.
boring job specifically. It was just
Mhm.
boring for you and you wanted something more. And that's the whole idea around leading yourself with intention is what is it that I want? So it's really been such a joy hearing how you had decided to step out of your comfort zone, step into something new, and to go out and create impact in, especially with some of the brands that you've created impact with that are really a lasting brand for a lot of people in the world. Like these are brands that are household names. So I love that you've done that. And I love that you also teach the clients that you work with to own their space without waiting for permission and to really just go out and go after their goals and taking that even one step.
Mhm.
Again, we talked about courage isn't just like something you wait for it to happen. It just happens when you decide to take that bold step. And then you actually can look behind and go, oh, that wasn't so bad. That wasn't so hard. Right. So, again, thank you so much for being here and sharing about what you do and that our voices are needed. I'm just really blessed and thrilled that you said yes. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been an honor. You are such a role model, and I just love what you're creating in this space.
Oh, thank you so very much. I appreciate that. I received those words. And to our listeners, if you'd like to connect with Jenn directly and learn more about her work at Rocket Social Impact or how she supports women entrepreneurs in elevating their visibility, you can find her contact information in the show notes. Remember, owning your voice is more than visibility. It's how your purpose makes its way into the world. Because when you stop waiting to be chosen, validated, or approved, and you start leading with what you already know to be true, everything changes. Your message gets clearer, your confidence gets louder, and the right opportunities start finding you. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast.
Hey guys, it's your girl Yasia. I want to share some really exciting news with you. I just dropped my first ever single, Spell on You, off my upcoming debut EP, Devil's Room, on RM Records. It's simply devilicious. Check out Spell on You wherever you listen to music. Bye for now.
I never thought I'd fall in love like this. It's time to close the chapter, but I think I needed this.
Electricast.